Hey, morning guys, welcome back to the Ahn Rho Project. We have a very quick live stream today. If you take a look in the title, it does say a brief summary. And this is a series I used to engage with quite a lot, but it's particularly necessary that we restart it today. And it's the perfect opportunity to do that. And the reason for that is because we actually have a lot of stuff we have to do today in a very limited amount of time due to a very packed schedule. And this particular series is good for this event, for this occasion, for this opportunity, for one reason. I just don't have time to do live streams. So we're going to cover at least about 50 different items today, right here in about the span of hopefully only about 20 to 30 minutes. I'm going to try to get as much as I can done, but it's going to be a bit of a gamble whether I can do everything. So we're going to start off with saying that there's going to be physical stuff. There's also going to be abstract stuff that I can't show you. So we'll just be touching on speech at that point. So in the top left-hand point, we have salt water, rinsing salt water with our mouth with salt water so that we can sort of prevent respiratory illness. So the sore throat, typical symptoms of something like a cold, influenza, or say even COVID. And it's just to kill the bacteria and create a saline environment inside your throat. So that's inhibitory for bacteria, as well as viruses. So then we'll go to the second point. And the second point here you can see on the top left. By the way, everything that you need to see for the content for today is all on the Excel file. Because again, I didn't have any time at all to sort of make this on the fly. I have to do this as efficiently as I possibly can, which is exactly what this stream's all about. So the second thing we have is laundry. And in laundry, we have laundry fabric softener, and that's right here on the left-hand side. We have to get a new purchase of fabric softener because it's run out. So it's a very quick item there. Moving on to the next one, we have, let me see if I can actually, if I could make this a little bit zoomed in. Yeah, 140%, okay. So the next thing, and I'm trying to make the text as large as I can so that you can actually read it. And I'm also trying to slow down my pacing. I recognize that I can't just rush through everything. So the third thing is domestic makeup, pencil sharpener. So I have to drop by Dollarama today, probably after the dentist appointment, and then pick up some pencil sharpeners. And that's for makeup for one of my biological guardians. The fourth item we have to do is cable wires and clips. So cable wires and clips are right here. You can see in this bag here. It's from the standing desk we set up about 4 days ago. And we got to put this away, probably stash it down here. I can't do it on stream today, unfortunately, because I said time crunch, right? Not a lot of time. But it probably goes in here in this toolbox. And the Ziploc bag, so I won't put the cable wires and the clips inside there. But the Ziploc bag I'll probably keep and put it inside there, next to all the toiletries and soap and stuff like that. Fourth, just kind of breeze away at these. Netflix, so Dota. This one's more interesting. It's a lot more fun to talk about. This is Dota Dragon's Blood. And this is a show that I watched up to season 3, episode 8 with my buddy, who unfortunately will not be covering in. It's going to be slightly uncomfortable covering the relationship I have with my friend there. The friendship I have with him. I didn't want to say relationship, that's kind of weird. But basically, we watched Netflix, and there was Dota, Dragon's Blood. It's a great animation. It's one of those films that one of those TV shows that you watch that changes you. Think of Breaking Bad. Think of The Dark Knight Rises. Think of, what's another good one? Attack on Titan. So the last episode was season 3, part 8, and we finished that, and I rewatched it. And of course, it came with a lot of very somber tales. So on the next line is philosophy, life, somber, morale. That's what it refers to, because it talks about death and being able to move on with not just with a lot of things that are negative in life, such as the passing of a loved one, such as the end of the world, such as, the eventual betrayal of friendship into an enemy, right? And the confrontation of your own blood or of an entire country. It's mostly how to move on with your life after tragedy. And that's something that this show covers off really well. And so how to do that is to, of course, the sixth line here says, to accept the involuntary and inevitable pain of any sort of tragedy of your own existence. And each of the characters within that show, with Davian and Marana, had to understand and accept that they kept trying to seek power to change the world to their own fitting, which was to remove and to save their loved ones and people who had died and passed away, who were close friends and beloved villagers and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, what they had to realize is that when no god or demon could even save their loved ones, people die, period. And living is pain, but it doesn't have to be misery. You could smile and learn to try to do your very best, and that's good enough. But you do have to accept the pain. And so that's one of those shows with one of those heavy themes. The next one we have to cover is the line below. So one of the characters in that show dies, and he says, the other character who is in love with him blames herself for putting an end to him for a necessary cause, which is the restart of the universe. And his name is Davian, the character, says, you're not the cause, and you shouldn't feel sorry, and you shouldn't feel saddened by my death, because I want this. I want this. And so the point is, he says, it's not important so much what people see me now as, or the fact I even live. It's about how I'll be remembered. And I think that's a very good mantra to use if you're going to pass on. And I think all of us are going to, right? That's just kind of inevitable. Everybody dies. Everyone you love dies. All your friends will die. You yourself will die. I will die, right? So that's one sort of coping mechanism, one copium, one way to deal with tragedy. Another one, or responsibility of having to pass on your life, right, for better means. Friendship drawing to a close again. So this one's a little bit sad. It's very intricately tied into my buddy who I watched the television show with, because I think we're sort of going through that sort of phase right now where we're finding it difficult to maintain a sort of friendship. And we support each other through times that were unfortunate, but we've sort of outgrown that. So we noticed a lot of behaviors that we had, and we sort of put up with it, but now it's becoming unbearable. So, for example, we're becoming impatient with one another. And we have different traits, but I was impatient with his dishonesty as he was impatient with my lack of support for his pet or whatever, right? So we are starting to realize that, that this was still a coping sort of friendship that we had, and it's not exactly a healthy one for either of us. So there's also a lot of miscommunication. Okay, next one. I think this is like the 10th line, but this is all related to the same thing. So embarrassment, public Lamro Center, community center, where once again it was a specific example of me just allowing myself to be taken advantage of, and him sort of taking advantage of my kindness. And I have to ask myself, why would I be so irresponsible to allow someone to do this to me, even if it is a friend? And likewise for him to actually do that, right? Asking lots of, it's just, both of us are not taking responsibility for the faults that we have. And we're just sort of being friends and trying to just keep things somewhat the way that they are, trying to give each other the best benefit of doubt, but it's not really working because it means neither of us are growing and changing. So that's just sad and has to change, which we'll allude to later on. 9 minutes in, I can tell it's taking a lot of time. gifts, final tea, crisp, orange. That's just how covering some snacks and gifts I received from him, and I gave him like some alcohol wipes just to wipe down his car and stuff like that. We just kind of cleaned the car together. Today wasn't a particularly happy day, but we did get some stuff done, and there were some food exchanges there, and we tried our best to get along. So there are on days, there are off days, right? That's kind of natural for any friendship, or um, if you have a partner as well. Moving on, residency, catfight showdown. This one covers a little bit of the dilapidated relations inside residency between multiple tenants. Needless to say, I don't want to cover too much detail there, but it was like a cat show, and I just left the house because I didn't want to surround myself anymore with this anymore. I'm pretty sick of that. All right, bitch ass tenant gossip, saying not good people. And the irony, because for you to gossip about people like this in the first place isn't that just a highlight of a reflection of, if we're like that, if that's what you think of us, then what does that say about you? So I don't understand, but it's a fair criticism anyway. So cooking utensils, wares, return storage. So we're covering cooking now. So that's what you see on the floor here, items in that bag, and this stuff here goes inside that closet over there, because unfortunately, after realizing what kind of coping sort of friendship I'm having, and that it's coming to an end, and I was very sad about this. I have to say, it was very painful, realizing that this was the moment I had anticipated what happened many years ago. It was coming to fruition, to light, and as sad it was, I was like, I kind of knew it, right? So this stuff here that I used to cook with my friend, we made all sorts of egg tarts and Malay curry and stuff like that, but neither of us had the time to cook anymore. I never had the time to cook. I actually just allowed myself to engage in the activity because I thought it made him happy, and it did. But once again, that's just me being silly for allowing myself to do stuff like that. So that's my problem. That's one of my problems, right? And he has different sorts of problems as well. But it's like we had good experiences nevertheless, and cooking the egg tarts and stuff like that, I still enjoyed it, cooking the food with him, and just a couple of buddies coming together to make a good meal is not a bad thing, and it's a good experience to file away in your memories and your storage. But that time has passed, and I've got to put this stuff away back in the closet because it's not happening anymore. Next, we have messages, triple messages from in SMS, WhatsApp, Facebook. So this is to multiple people. My cousin, my other cousin from the other side of the family. Some of them are having a wedding. Another one went through a breakup. Another went through this and da. Another one was to a business partner, who is actually a doctor, a physician trained in multiple disciplines. So moving on to the next one, that's exactly what it's about. Business call, double over, 2 procedures per month. Two reasons. First reason, I want to ask this doctor, who's also a business partner, how to settle through with a certain order, because it's to activate, say, like a store franchise, but there's a certain transaction or a certain procedure I have to follow in order to make that work. And secondly, I also had to make sure that I'm going to start pacing around. I notice I've been sitting down in the bed the whole time, probably very boring, very static. All right, so the second thing I had to call was actually for my biological guardians, because she's going through a very difficult time right now. I can tell her health's not doing well. If at all possible, the specialists keep on just delaying and delaying, because that's just how things are when you're in a public healthcare system that is overloaded, and especially during COVID anyways. So if I can get her in touch with a physician who is available and I have personal access to, why not, right? And he's trained in multiple disciplines, so that's something else I want to. Needless to say, I have to call him and ask him multiple things, that product and store franchise activation, as well as regarding the care and his personal input as a physician for my guardian. Next, we're just going down the list. This is item number 15, 25, who knows? Clinical specialists. So this is me just getting updated and learning, because I do have some responsibility, right, as someone's son and so on and so forth. but I do care for her too. So I wanted to know the story, and just checking up on all the sort of ray scans she's had to go through. It's probably a very difficult time. Like, she's so exhausted. Moving on next, hot food. This is more lighthearted now. There's a little space there. So lighthearted food, hot food camp at a supermarket. So last night, after feeling miserable about realizing what's gonna happen between me and my friend, I actually stayed at a nearby supermarket. They have a hot food section. You go in there, it's like some dim sum and hagao, siumai, that kind of dumplings and stuff like that. It's a Chinese supermarket. You buy some stuff, and then you can go to the hot food section and you can sit there. And I was the only one there, so it was very fitting. It was like at 9 to 10 p.m. at night, and I was just staring out into the starry skies with people passing by very sparingly on a Friday night. How artistic and melancholy. So that's where we were, and we spent about an hour there eating some like green onion pancakes and drinking some, and just going through our thoughts and some very unwanted emotions at the time, but that we had known would come eventually. So that's what the hot food camp, because it felt like a little bit of a private place that I used to go to, actually. That it was the same place, that hot food camp. I would camp out at the hot food section about 7 years ago when I came back from university. And now it's coming full circle. 7 years ago later, I'm going back to the same supermarket, the same place in the same section, sitting down there feeling, every time I feel bad, I go to places like these where I feel like kind of like a comfort zone where I can sort of recover and recuperate, because I don't really have a home, right? Next, overeat, mass caloric burn. So I ate too much yesterday and the day before, and that was to celebrate. Actually, I wanted to give, there's a lot of food that I purchased for my brother. My brother had a very intense day working on his, business, which for privacy reasons I won't talk too much about. But I ate too much. I ate way too much. So mass caloric burn. Today and yesterday I did sit-ups, push-ups, crunches, stretches, cardio, Muay Thai. Like, I did a whack ton of exercise to burn as much of that fat and sugar as I can, because a lot of it is just shit. And also, speaking of which, let's drink some water right now. So water is important. Water, right here. Give me 5 seconds. Good. Continue. No time to waste. All right. So that was overeating, mass caloric burn. Probably item like 22. Warm up, cardio, stretch. We just talked about that right now. So we covered this like 3 live streams ago. On this bed right here, right? Start with the stretches with the legs. You saw me kind of do it. I gave an example for the first time. I'm supposed to do it more frequently. I don't have a lot of time. Today I have to go see the dentist in about an hour and a half. No, in 1 hour I have to go to the dental appointment. After that, I need to see my cousin, because he's gonna be coming back from like an African country, and we'll be catching up. And then I gotta get ready for a wedding, so it's like a lot of stuff packed, and I still have to do this live stream, and I still have to apply for a new job and all that kind of shit. So back on topic here. All right, so warm up, cardio, stretch, flex, right on the bed right here, that kind of stuff. Kind of spreading my torso, shoulders, muscles, back, scapula, trapezius, making sure that we have a sort of we're trying to get rid of the slouch that I get from sitting in this chair facing that desk, right, that damn laptop over there, without the standing desk, which we do have now, so we won't be slouching no more. Thank you. So that's good. That's really good news. Okay. Fitness, train, exercise, standing in the kitchen. So that refers to more like a standing stretches that you couldn't see. There's no way for me to record that, honestly. I do that downstairs in the kitchen. I might be able to do that outside one day and record it using a ring clamp, but I don't know how that's going to work out. But I wish I could show you. Maybe that will be a future content live stream. I don't know. But it's a lot of like a mixed martial arts kind of stuff. A little bit of Tai Chi, a little bit of Muay Thai, a little bit of Taekwondo. It's more active, more rigorous than, say, the stretches that we do on bed. It's not just push-ups or sit-ups kind of stuff, and it's not just some like minor leg stretches. Okay, next, church, TDC influence. So now we're going back to our friend here, because we're just going from the left-hand side across to this entire right. room, and so that's why we had the clips here. Then we had the laundry detergent, fabric softener. They had to cover this food here that I forgot to mention, was synced up with one of the task lists up there, having to do with gift food. So my buddy, right, I said orange. I put one orange, gave it to my guardians downstairs. I'm not gonna eat that. But we also have some crab roe. What do you call this? Beans, crab. It's like crab eggs. It's written in Chinese, of course. I can't really read it, but like some sort of beans. And yeah, that's what it is. So it's just a gift item. So it's class 4 item because it's a gift, and I received it from my buddy. And how symbolic it is to be something last like this. I'll place it up here. What I want to mention, of course, we already talked about where this location goes. This actually belongs over there in region B1, I believe. I don't remember the name anymore of locations, doesn't matter. The food here, as I received as a gift, will go right here underneath the pile. It's all green matching anyways, so it's good. And the cookware, of course, goes into the cooking utensils, and the kitchenware goes inside the closet. So that kind of covers the material aspect over here so far. One thing I didn't write on the left-hand side, I should have, but I didn't because there's just too much. So this morning I just kind of wrote down everything that I had to do on my mind the next 24 hours, and it showed up like 60 items, and I missed this, so it is important. But we're gonna go to a wedding, so that means all this stuff here. We got a tie here, we got a suit here, with some pants here, dress pants there, socks here, this, that, all that kind of stuff. We'll get all done. 1, 2, 3, 4, quick and snappy, right? So all the dress wearing attire for a cocktail, formal occasions, we gotta get through. Next, what next? Fitness, train, church, TDC, influence. So church, right, back to my friend. He's going through a moment of incredible self-development and self-improvement, so I'm very proud of him for that. Unfortunately, I realized that, part of my problem was sort of allowing him to just kind of use me kind of like a crutch, because we're at different phases of development in different disciplines, right? So one thing that he has a lot of troubles with, and I don't blame him, and I don't mention this. I don't mention any names. Again, privacy, confidentiality. He had a lot of traumatic issues that I had too. And so both of us have social issues, social behavioral personality sort of issues, or stress or anxiety related issues that affect our method of, say, communication in different ways. Different ways because, like he's a different person, right? And I'm a different person. So there's a lot of, I tend to let people do what they want. I'm very pro freedom and pro independence, so to speak. So I kind of let people do what they want, and sometimes I kind of, because of that, I become a bit of a people pleaser in a sense, or maybe not people pleaser, but I care too much about my friend to pressure him to change into a better person, which is not good for me, because that means like, I'm kind of letting him, I'm not the best catalyst for his growth as an individual. It also puts me in a lot of uncomfortable situations, right? And then him, he's just not aware of the things that he does wrong, and sometimes he is aware, but he does it anyways. So there's a bit of disingenuousness from him, a bit of dishonesty from him, and me, I just kind of accept it. So I'm kind of like, what's the word? Weak, pathetic. So these tendencies that make us good for friends are not really good, sustainable friendships. And so that's something that I want to mention here, is what's been going on here is he's going through this phase, let's say. He's going to church, he's going out a new job, and he's meeting new people, and he's getting better. And within about 1 to 2 weeks of training and education, he's almost a completely different person. I said, why weren't you like this like 3 years ago? And like, well, I can't expect him to be like that because he was just in a different time in his life. And for me to think that way is just, how can I have these expectations of someone else? The fact is, he's going through a major shift, and I felt feelings of betrayal, which is the next line here, but that are righteous for him. Like, he's allowed to do what he's doing now, and it's mostly because, like, yes, he did those things, but I accepted them. And more importantly, we just had different phases of development. So he didn't do it because he wanted to. It's more like he wasn't capable of doing better. And the same could be said for myself, right? So moving on, let's cover some of these things here, which is very heavy topics, right? I know this is not comfortable stuff, but this stream doesn't shy away from anything, right? It doesn't shy away from, it has a lot of privacy and confidentiality principles I apply so that nobody can be identified, but barring the protection of people's identity. So I leave out, I change certain aspects of the story, or I make sure that I don't provide any sort of personally identified information. Barring that, when it comes to controversial topics, I don't avoid it. Because life is controversial. Life is a hotbed of pain and suffering, and avoiding that is not going to help you improve. So moving down the list, let's cover them one by one. So things that he's been in a single 4-hour session with my friend today, I noticed so many things that he's doing right that he never used to do right. And I want to point out the things that I'm proud of him for saying, because these are things that I had constantly wanted to tell him over the course of our 4 or 5 years of friendship, but that he never seemed to get until just this week of working at a new job and probably a couple months into going to church, I believe, or something of that sort. He might have learned from other places, but those seem to be the most obvious places for all I know. So here's the first one: safety first, don't rush, right? Don't rush. That's kind of obvious. So driving around, safety first, don't rush. And he's applied that across the board when we were hanging out. When I was hanging with him, he doesn't rush anymore like he used to. He takes his time to make sure that whatever he does is safe and steady and secure, just like it should be. Try something new instead of being the same all the time, right? Being stuck on the same job. But also applies to relationships, applies to finance. If you're going to do something for the rest of your life, of course, you're kind of stuck in the loophole there. But he was embraced. He openly said it for the first time I've never known him. He said, I wanted to try something new. And he did. He got a new job, and I'm very proud of him for taking a new job that's very different from what he's used to, because this one requires a lot of learning. And in his past, he didn't really learn in this particular way. He kind of stayed within his own sort of comfort zone. Next thing here, we have not need to spend lots of money. That's important. He used to go out and spend lots of money frivolously to go, but it was kind of like a coping mechanism. You gotta understand. Don't blame him here, right? I'm not blaming him either. I'm just pointing out things that he's improved on so much, and that I say, everyone should improve on. And I'm very proud of him, and proud of anyone who's working on these habits that they're trying to fix. So if you guys can relate to some of this stuff, good on you, right? So it's not a shaming thing. This is a moment of pride. What used to be a problem was that you go out and spend lots of money eating outside so that you could avoid the painful, broken family dynamic at home. Now he's kind of sort of taking responsibility, and that's not being a problem anymore, because he's actually going for a walk. He says, a simple walk to the dog park, that doesn't cost a lot of money. We can do that instead. And that's a very mature adult way of handling it. I'm very proud of him for that. Next thing, resume, keep it simple. So this is something that I learned from him. Although it's not really learned from him, but because I already understood from the beginning. But even so, I consider it to be a point of appreciation of advice. So he talked about, when putting a resume, keep it simple, right? 1, 2, 3 points at most, because you don't want to waste, which is the next line, don't waste people's time. And this is very important, something that he used to call me every single week as well. So it's crazy. And now he doesn't do that anymore. And now he's also applying it to the professional workplace, which is very impressive, because he's mentioned, in his resume, I don't put 10 different job entries, which is exactly what he used to do. So it's phenomenal growth, impressive. And he's telling me that. So I felt I was a little ticked off when I heard that. I was like, you're telling me something that I knew all the time that I wish that you wouldn't do. But at the same time, I can't help but be happy and proud that he's kind of realized that, and that he's actually trying to espouse, right? He's trying to he's talking real shit now. All right, next. It's good, it's like when you see a friend who always used to get bullied and pushed around, and then he grows a pair, right? And then he gets a spine. He stands up for himself. at times he might antagonize you now because he's grown a spine, but at the same time you're also incredibly proud of him and you have nothing but support and admiration for his improvement. So next we have waste, no time. Like, okay, defend, mistreat, vulnerable. So this is a bad on me part, right? So this is something I did wrong. So when we walk the dog to the park or his cat or whatever, um, I was a little harsh on his pet because it tends to be very defensive and attacks tends to threaten dogs that don't mean any threat or just on friendly terms, trying experience. And so I wasn't having very much of that at all. And I recognized that, that's just how it is. That's something that some dogs just like people, some dogs. So he basically talked me out of that state, and he made me aware that, what I was, while the dog was being standoffish to other people, I was kind of standoffish to his dog, to his pet, his beloved pet. And that was inappropriate on my part. That's kind of my fault, right? I'm not supposed to do something like that. If I'm not comfortable with that, I should mention it and just take my leave. That's how it's supposed to be done. And so I'm actually happy that he kind of protected the sort of vulnerableness of his own pet, like he's supposed to, and he didn't do it in an overly aggrandizing sort of way. He wasn't trying to put me down, right? So that's something else. Next, moving on, we have imperative. Don't do that. That's very important. Okay, no, that's too far down. Let go. Understand people. Person. Let go, understand people, person. Let me think of what that means. Letting go, understand people. I can't seem to remember what that means though. Understand. Right, okay, so there were other dog owners there, and we had a 4 people conversation, and I'm very grateful to those dog owners as well. Again, no names mentioned, nor the pets' names, right? But needless to say, he really demonstrated, my buddy here, a lot more self-awareness and reflection, saying, he understands his pet, he understands the behavior of the other dog owner's pet, and how alike they are in the sense that these other dog owners, it was a couple, married husband and wife with 2 dogs, and they came over and their dog was a lot like my buddy's dog. So these dogs tend not to interact with other dogs. They interact more with people, which is exactly the thing that, wasn't that's wrong. That's not what I was against. I was against the fact that my buddy's dog kept lashing out at any new dogs coming in indiscriminately. But even so, it's similar enough, right? The other dogs from the other dog owners didn't lash out, but one thing that they mentioned was that their dogs tend to like just people. And that is a similarity that can be drawn with my buddy's dog. And so again, it kind of highlights that my friend here, my buddy, is actually gaining self-awareness, and he's standing up. He's like telling me straight up to my face, right? Very directly. He's just saying, listen, I know, but you gotta understand, it's just this dog likes people. Some dogs like people. And I can't argue with that, right? So moving on, we have the next line here: calm, needy, lovable, bastard. Either way. So this is something that I think is something that I very much. It's a bit of a yes and no, right? So he says, calm, needy, bastard. What this refers to is being able to love a broken person, and I don't know how much I agree with that, but it is a point of contention that highlights some growth in him, because previously he wouldn't have accepted this. But he said, he was given an example. The dog is clinging one moment and it's calm the other. And I like the way he described this, because it's a lot like a parent. Somewhat like a parent. And he's saying, he's trying to convince me, there's sometimes the dog will do things that don't make sense. Sometimes we'll do things that are just inappropriate. But for all its flaws, we still love it. We still love the dog. And I say, that's true. I still do love your dog, and I still value our friendship. So it's again, he was really speaking some truths here. Whether or not I happen to agree, because I believe there's a limitation on that, right? Because there's a point where it becomes an abusive relationship. So there's got to be some sort of median ground there. that we'd have to discuss further. Moving on, we have the next line here: sorry but not sorry, at his place actually. Placing his own needs first. This one stunned me actually. I was shocked. It was almost curt, almost rude. But I just couldn't help but feel like, man, how is this the same friend that I once used to know? I'm kind of proud of him. It's like, because it's like he used to let people push him around, right? That was one of his problems that we kind of shared together. Both of us had this kind of problem, and we both were growing up. I grew out of it a while ago, but he kind of still had these tendencies, and now it's like, whoa, that really took me by surprise. And so I was really proud of him for saying that. He said, sorry, but not sorry. And he went to the washroom. He had to do his business. He had stuff he had to do, and he wasn't afraid to put his own needs first, which is exactly what he should be doing. And, well, if anybody's watching this, that's what you should be doing too, right? Because you can only take care of other people if you take care of yourself first. So you got to place your own needs first, naturally. Suggest, defer, help, no time, utility, childhood. So he was speaking to another friend of his, a very close friend of his, a very productive friendship, a very long time friendship with, so it was like one of his other friends. He actually had called him and said, I don't have time. In a very mature way, he just said, hey, I don't have that much time anymore. I'm going to all these, training education camps for that new career job or whatever. And he just, straight up said, he was direct about it, as opposed to before he would have been very subtle and tried to make excuses and try to hide it. But this time he just went straight for it, and he just said directly to his friend, listen, I don't have a lot of time. You might have to look for someone else to help you. And I thought that was very mature and a huge improvement from, again, this all happened within a single day. I'm shocked. I'm floored by how different it was. And that's great, and these are all points that we can all work on, right? I mean, some of these things I need improvement on. Some of these things are things that maybe if you're watching, you need improvement on, right? So moving on, imperative, don't do that. He took a commanding a position, and he was very passive for many years, but he became more and more assertive nowadays, and that's fine. But this time he's really, he just really just said flat out, hey, just don't do that. And I was like, wait, what? At first I was like, oh, okay. And then I caught myself and like, wait, what? I was so shocked. I was like, did he just say that? I was like, that's not, he just said, don't do that, so casually. And I was like, that's something he would never do. I was very, again, just impressed, because he stood his ground in such a natural way. That's exactly how it should happen, right? That's exactly how it should happen. So go to the next one, avoid comparing people. That's what he was talking about, because he caught me, right, doing something that I kind of learned from him, which was comparing people. He used to always complain about people, and that was his kind of traumatic response to a lot of traumatic upbringing, right? Naturally, an abusive father and so on and so forth. Narcissistic, heavy, cluster B personality disorders in the family running, stuff like that. We don't want to dive into it. It's not pleasant. It's not positive. It's not useful. Okay, but needless to say, that kind of stuff happens, and so he used to do a lot of that kind of excuse making, complaining about other people, and then over time, as I spent more time, naturally I said, oh, okay, well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's kind of that. She's kind of that. And then this time, he kind of dialed it the opposite way. At first I felt a bit of a pinch of betrayal, right? I was like, I kind of wanted you to stop doing this before, and now you're telling me to stop doing something that you wanted me to do. But the fact is, nevertheless, again, the growth is just phenomenal. It highlights, he says here, just don't compare people. And I couldn't agree more, right? It's like, don't compare people. Now, my point wasn't to try to compare people. I was saying that that's a very good friend of his. And then he's like, don't do that. I was like, wait, but I'm complimenting him. But he says like, well, I know, but like you're kind of like saying that he's good and implying that someone else wasn't. I mean, just don't compare people. And I said, that's kind of true, because actually that's somewhat what is implied with that statement. I don't know. I feel like that might be a bit of a reach, though. I feel like that might be an oversensitive kind of thing, but it does highlight that sometimes I have a tendency to be judgmental, right? So I need to reflect on that a little bit. Imperative, don't do that. Avoid comparing people, relationships, friends, colleagues, not the same. So this is something that he's always mentioned a lot, not particularly yesterday, but colleagues and friends are not the same. And that's something that I have to learn from him, because I've tended to treat everybody like a friend, but he highlights that there's certain limitations, practically speaking. If you share too many personal details in the workplace, your colleagues can easily turn against you, and you think they're your friends, but they're not really, because you can't really spend time with them outside to sort out all these misunderstandings and miscommunications due to lack of time and just having to work on a very tight schedule. So friends are not colleagues, and colleagues are not friends, not necessarily anyways. Moving on, next we have accept, okay, decision, abstain. So this one covers accepting a decision to abstain. Right. So a lot of times I reject his advances for free food or things he does out of kindness, because I'm uncomfortable with accepting help when I have nothing to contribute or offer myself. And that's one of my problems. If that's the case, if that just means that that's my problem of insecurity, right? So this is my problem here. And if that's the case, I should just go and make sure I handle that insecurity by becoming secure. And that means accomplishing the things that I want to do that would make me feel secure. Or at least, if I can't get it done in time, to just sort of, work on my behaviors, or maybe just not be there, right? So for example, 3 things you could do if you are insecure about, let's say, not having a job or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, is to, first of all, 1, handle it. So you go and get the job, you get the boyfriend, you get the girlfriend. The second is to say, work on your behaviors. Just work on breathing techniques, work on distractions, so that you don't end up engaging in certain behaviors, patterns of behaviors of anxiety and neuroticism and lashing out, right? So you might just like meditate, mindfulness, something like that. And the third would be to just distance yourself. Recognize that, I can't solve the insecurity on time, so maybe I just won't spend this much time with other people who might be pissed off, because I'll just handle my problems, I'll work on it, but for now I'm going to keep distance between me and other people so that I can work on my personal issues. That way other people don't have to suffer me in this current miserable state, right, of insecurity. So those are 3 different sort of tactics. You can use any or all, or just 1 or 2, right? But that's kind of what's covered there. Running out of time, gotta enjoy life. This one I really liked from him. This is something I wish he would have said a lot sooner too. And running out of time, gotta enjoy life. We were sitting down, we were gonna watch like a movie, and he said, and I rejected one of his advances for like tea or chips or something like that. I said, no, I'm good. I appreciate it though. Thanks. He's like, well, that's fine, but I'm gonna go get it because it's, you only live once. And he says you only live once a lot, but he changed it this time. He didn't say you only live once. So it was just kind of like a meme thing, YOLO. He changed it to, he said, I don't have a lot of time. We're all gonna die, so I'm just gonna eat whatever I want. And of course grabs a huge bag of Cheetos and comes over here. I'm not saying that's something that I'm not encouraging you to grab like a bunch of bags of junk food. The principal point here was that simply he recognized something that he didn't do before, which was that he's alive and he should just enjoy life. Before, he was very rigid, right? Kind of like I am in some sense. In some ways more than others, different things. Moving on, so that's something I really appreciated him for saying that. That's a very important point. If you're going to live until you're 70, it's like you got to recognize that there are certain things you got to do to enjoy yourself, and that you can't just abstain and limit yourself from all these fun activities until you've sorted things out. Because when will you sort things out? It might never happen until you're at the age of 55, and then by that point you can't really, so it's actually really just a summary of the whole YOLO meme, but still rings true. Do watch something positive, something funny. So when we picked the movie, he mentioned that. I thought that was very, because he was today, like yesterday, he was really just explaining his thought process, his new thought process, right? And I was floored. I was just shocked and confused and felt betrayed and felt also proud and impressed. Like it was a roller coaster of emotions for me with him yesterday. I was like equal amounts of impressed, confused, shocked, betrayed, and I was admiring him at the same time. It's crazy. But he said, he was explaining his thought process for picking movies this time. And he said, which is before he would just go like, oh, that's cool, oh, that's nice. This time he's like, um, we gotta pick something funny or something positive, because that's how you, next line, grow and improve as an individual, right? You put on a positive, useful mindset. I'm like, where is this all coming from? Where was this for the past 6 years? I was so happy that you finally adopted these new principles. So it's like it was like I was just like floored. So those two are tied together right there. And the last one is call out dishonest intent. Now this one is actually from my end. For the first time in a while, I actually said to him, that's not actually the because I kind of give him a lot too much leeway, right? So this is my personal problem that I had to grow out of. So yesterday, for the first time in probably months and months, I decided to do what I knew was best, and I called out what I saw was something dishonest, and he didn't have anything to say but to look to the side and acknowledge that, yeah, that's true. And what it was is he was like saying, he tends to be quite pushy in giving these gifts to me, or giving certain food or certain services to me, but there's always a catch, because he's never, like, more than 50% of the time when he decides to give something, it's majority, the major reason is because he's trying to get rid of something. It's almost like dumping his stuff onto you, and you say, I don't want it, but he's like, oh no, you gotta get it, it's good for you, and he makes all sorts of excuses to try and get stuff done in his manner. So it's somewhat manipulative kindness, right? And it's the kind of passive aggressiveness to it. And I just don't want it, dude. I don't want it. It's like someone keeps pushing you a Tim Hortons cup of coffee or Starbucks green tea or whatever. Like I just don't. I don't want it. I don't want it. I appreciate it, but keep it. I don't want it. So then I said, the only reason why you're doing this right now is because you don't want it. You're just dumping on me. And so I pointed out how dishonest that was, and so that was a growth method that was me kind of relearning how to be a proper friend, honestly, because like I said, our friendship isn't a proper friendship, it's a friendship, it is, but it's not a healthy friendship, right? And since he started to rapidly improve, and he now seems to have the motivation. He definitely has the motivation now he wants to change. Before, he wanted to stay the same. He wants to stay in his kind of like traumatic state of coping, and now he wants to go beyond that and become a healthy, like sensible human being. And I'm all for it. I'm all here for this. This is something I wish would have been like many years ago, but I recognize that's my problem too, because back then I probably would have felt inadequate and insecure in my own ways, and then I probably would have distanced myself from him because I feel like out of league. He's out of my league. So in a lot of ways, like, this is perfect. If that's the case, then we can both grow at the same time, and that kind of wraps up that whole. That's a lot of stuff that happened in a single. Sometimes you just catch these. A lot of times you go see your friends or your friend or your relatives or your spouse, and you get these incremental little changes, right? But in certain relationships, at certain points, you see these massive changes, these huge leaps in character within a short period of time. And this was that moment. This is one of those moments. Okay. I don't know what happened now. I just heard a notification. Moving on. Next one. Personal commitment, relation seriousness. So this is related to the friendship thing. So I intend on being, I want to be honest with my friend now. So I'm changing now. I gotta improve. I gotta keep up. All right. He wants to change. He wants to grow. I'm all gung-ho for him. Great, awesome. In which case, I have to be less of a people pleaser around him. I have to be more sensible. I have to toss away these bad habits that I learned from him, but also bad habits that I start to reinforce on my own. So I have to take responsibility for myself and keep up with him as a friend, which is actually going to be really easy. It's going to be a whole lot easier for me because I'm just basically undoing all the things that I had to sort of. I did things that I didn't really want to do. Now it's like less of a burden for me to be around him, because I feel free to just kind of voice myself as is. So I'm going to be a lot more brutally honest about things, and I'm going to talk to him about this. So it's a serious friendship now, right? Before it's kind of like, kids, kind of being nice to each other. Oh, we don't want to make each other feel bad, so we're just going to let each other do bad things, right? That kind of stuff. But now it's like, no, I'm going to point out to you when you do something wrong, and please point out to me when I do something wrong, so we can be both honest with each other and settle a problem properly, through proper communication and actually taking action and changing ourselves. So that's a proper friendship, or a healthy friendship, and I'm going to commit to that. So never let the friend abuse my kind patience in any way. That is actually a good thing. That is something, of course, that's always been good, but I'm not supposed to allow that to happen, because that not only hinders my growth, that hinders his growth, right? I have to point him out, this is not acceptable, and then he can actually change it. If I don't, well, he's going to continue to do that, which is exactly what happened all these years. So I've not been a very good friend because I've just sort of pandered and allowed him to do what he's always done. And that means that, any sort of dysfunction is always in a relationship on both sides, and I take part of the blame here as well. So let me be a part of the solution and not allow that to happen. Moving on. I know I got a text message, I think that's what it was. Keep up or fall behind, your choice, right? So commit to blunt, honest argument, right? Just being honest and forthcoming and straightforward. And if you don't keep up, you fall behind. That's what's gonna happen. It just means, if I don't keep up, I will fall behind, and if he doesn't keep up, he's gonna fall behind. And then, if that's the case, it's like, if you're gonna be in this certain stage of development, maybe, and you're going to be engaging in certain activities, in certain career choices, in certain pathways in business or relationships, then maybe you should find friends who are actually in that circle of activity or relationships. Why are you spending time with me when you can spend time with people who are actually within your lane? And the same goes for me. So it's either now, because it's a serious relationship, there are stakes at hand, there are stakes at play, there are consequences, right? It's a serious relationship in that sense, because if it doesn't work out, we're going to end up parting ways, or at least putting some sort of temporary distance from each other, which we've done more than once already. No more Mr. Nice Guy, right? Don't appease backstabs. I'm not going to put up with that anymore. Okay? And that's actually not just a problem for him, right? That's a problem for me, right? That's actually my responsibility as well. Next, live stream, backup intentions, plan. So this entire live stream has a lot of philosophy and psychology and a lot of just relationship management stuff. This is very different from the previous couple live streams, if you can't tell, which were more logistic and kind of boring. And this is controversial stuff, right? This is not a PC stream. This is a stream where you can actually argue with me. This is a stream where you might get hot-blooded. This is one where you might get emotional a little bit, because some of these things I'm touching on here might ring too personal with some of my viewers, right? So, well, I don't have any viewers, but if you were to watch this, some of you, at least some of you, would find this like personally attacked. But of course, I'm attacking myself half the time here too, right? Because some of these things are me. Moving to the side. No more Mr. Nice Guy people. Okay, live stream backup intention. So this is this entire live stream. That's what it refers to. It refers to this stream being a backup stream. The title says backup intentions, like backup summary. And the whole point was that I have a dental appointment, you gotta see a wedding, all that stuff. And I figured, I was gonna wake up and just do a 15-minute live stream, cover all these 75 different items, and say, hey, this is what I need to get done for the day. And I was supposed to run a live stream that was supposed to last 3 hours, live streaming and covering and recording all the things I'm supposed to do as I'm doing it, right? It's an action stream. But this is not action stream. This is just a summary stream because I can't run the live stream when I'm at the wedding, when I'm outside, when I'm here. I don't have the gear to do that yet set up. And most importantly, I can't go to a clinic and record that either. That's a private business. So there's just certain logistical issues. I can't record myself. I'm just going to condense and crunch everything up into this summary, this plan that I'm going to lay out before you. And hopefully I'll be able to tick off as many of these as I can throughout the day. Or it might be, ahead of the time or behind. That's kind of ahead, retrospective. So maybe I'll be doing this after I've done everything. Next, reading double article before sleep. So on the laptop there, it's still turned on, is it? I should probably turn it off actually. But needless to say, okay, let's just put it down. So what I'm supposed to do is go on the laptop and before I sleep, read an article that is related to work or whatever activity that I'm engaged in. I guess, for example, right now would be fitness, or I listen to podcasts or watch a video like that. Ideally not a video, actually, more of a podcast, and even better, reading a book, a chapter on fitness. So that's something that I should be doing, or work or relationships or something like that. And digesting that information take about 20 to 30 minutes before going to sleep, so that there's something productive on my mind, and I'll wake up and review that in the morning, and that's how you can get some retention. And to do 2 different types of media, probably like 20 minutes each before I go to sleep. Next, but I didn't actually do that because I was awake the whole night and fell asleep for only about 2-3 hours, but that was still longer than I should have. I needed it anyway, so I have to, otherwise I can't stay awake. So I couldn't get that done. Partial relevance, double learn matter material post. So this just refers to the fact that whatever I was supposed to read from the article or listen to on the podcast has to be relevant to whatever I'm actually doing. So it does have to be something that can be applied immediately, or is relevant to something that I'm applying within the short term. Jog, dawn, rigorous, strenuous cardio. This is something. So these last 3 I've missed, unfortunately. So strenuous jog, I can't do that today. I was supposed to go this morning at 5 a.m. in the morning, go out for a jog and a run, and I've been planning to do that for a while now. I couldn't, but it's okay because instead I ended up doing martial arts anyways. I ended up doing fitness and stretching and cardio and stuff like that. I didn't do the whole jogging thing outside and around the block, but whatever, fair enough. And that kind of covers everything. So, wow, that's a 1-hour stream, 57 minutes, and now I have to get dressed. So we're gonna have to get dressed, and I'm gonna get dressed for the wedding immediately right now, even though the wedding's like 10 hours away, because after I go to the dental appointment, I'm gonna go pick up stuff at Dollarama, and then I'm gonna see my cousin, and it's gonna be like 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and then before you know it, I'll just have to come back and dress myself up anyways. And then there's all sorts of complicated relations in residency, which I don't want to touch upon here. It's not particularly a good thing anyways. So I'd rather just stay outside, just be dressed for the whole time. And because of that, I'll probably need to stash in this bag. I'll bring this bag with me, put a tie inside, put some like dress shoes in there. And yeah, I think that's all I got. I have to do something about it so that I don't want to wear a tie to the dental appointment, right? Like I don't want to wear like a red tie to the dentist appointment. I also don't want to, I don't know, there's certain things that are formal wear that you just don't want to wear in public. So I'll have to figure that out. Needless to say, I'm going to end this live stream. Thank you very much for tuning in. And this is the Ahn Rho Project. You know what? We're going to leave it running here. No, we're not, because we need this phone. We do, right? Yeah, well, let's end this live stream. This is Ahn Rho signing out. Thank you for tuning in. Take care of yourself. Take care of your responsibilities. Become a strong, disciplined, responsible individual. Be good to your loved ones, to your community, and so on and so forth. And, all that self-improvement and jazz shit. Okay? Yeah. Take care. Bye.